Welcome back, everybody, to the Boston Celtics Newsfeed, powered by CLNS Media. I'm Mike Walsh, manager of the Celtics Newsfeed, and this is day 22 of our 2017-18 NBA preview. We're going day by day, releasing new team previews leading up to opening night, October 17th in Cleveland. We're figuring out who has the best chance to match up with these Boston Celtics. Before we get started, wanted to mention that the CLNS Media team was all over training camp in the preseason. Our YouTube page at youtube.com/CLNS Media is packed to the brims with content from the preseason games, practices, and even the recent Shamrock Gala fundraiser. So don't waste any time, head over to youtube.com/CLNS Media and subscribe to not miss a thing in the lead up to this regular season. Once the season gets going, CLNS will have coverage of all home games and select road games on that YouTube page, youtube.com/CLNS Media. Until then, though, each of these preview podcasts will be accompanied by an outline blog post on our site, clnsradio.com. Today I'm going to be speaking with CLNS Media contributor Nick Cherico about his preview for the Washington Wizards. The Wizards had a largely internal offseason, but took the Celtics to 7 games last year in the second round and returned most of that extremely athletic team. So without further ado, let's get into day 22 of the Boston Celtics Newsfeed's 2017-18 NBA season preview with Nick Cherico and the Washington Wizards. Alright, welcome back, guys. Day 22 of the Newsfeed's preview podcast series, and we're talking the Washington Wizards. Took the Celtics to 7 games in the second round last season, and they're going to return a lot of guys, so we're going to get into a lot of continuity talk, I think, today. Nick Cherico on the line joining us, CLNS Media contributor. Nick, good morning, man. It's an early morning for us.
Yeah, it is. Ready to go, though.
Excellent. We have to get into really that Game 7 series. We will talk a lot later about their offseason, which was, I said earlier, largely internal, not super busy exactly on the free agent market, but they made some key moves to continue this, I guess, upward trend that they've been on. But let's start last season at that Game 7 series. What is your memory of it? What was the big takeaway you took from that sort of run?
Well, I think it was Game 1 where they got off to that wicked slow start. But they ended up coming back and winning that game. I thought that beginning of that game, like, they were donezo, because they should have lost. If it wasn't for Rondo getting hurt, they could have lost that Bulls series easy. Mm-hmm. And then going into the next round, Washington, clearly a better team. I thought that was going to be it for them. And then they get down to like 20 in the first quarter, and you're like, oh, alright. But then, I don't know, they showed that series, like, really was like the culmination of the entire season, I think, because it really showed what a, like, gritty team they were last year.
Yeah, that spoke a ton to Isaiah and what he was able to do, and obviously Kelly Olynyk, Game 7. That's the lasting memory for me personally, because I'm gonna miss Kelly Olynyk. And I think Avery had a very strong series as well. We'll obviously talk a little bit about what those two departures in particular mean against a team like Washington. Last season, the Wizards finished 49-33, fourth in the Eastern Conference. Off-season grades, you're gonna give them a B in your story on clnsradio.com. And if it's pure, acquisitions, B, I guess would be pretty strong. But the Wizards did more than that. So, but first off, let's start with those acquisitions. Mostly, backup guys. Tim Frazier, Jody Meeks, Mike Scott, Donald Sloan. Do these guys mean anything to you in the long run here?
I think Meeks is gonna be significant for them with, the loss of Bogdanovic. So, he averaged like 9.4 points per game on 40% shooting. Bogdanovic was slightly above that at like 13 on 39%, I believe. But they're gonna miss Bogdanovic, the guy that they got at the deadline. He was very helpful for them off the bench. They would miss that a lot if they didn't get that sort of like replacement role from Jody Meeks. So I think that's gonna be big for them. And I also like Tim Frazier because they did Trey Burke. Well, he really wasn't that effective at backup point guard for them last year. They did lose him, so bringing in a guy like Tim Frazier to sort of take some pressure off John Wall and get those minutes down a bit. He's not going to go out there and put up much points wise, but I think he'll be a good filler piece there too, coming off the bench.
Yeah, you mentioned Bogdanovic. Bojan Bogdanovic, their main loss of the offseason, he's going to sign in Indiana. And it's a little bit more than just a loss of him because you mentioned it was a midseason move last year. They give up a first round pick, and they've also obviously traded their second round pick for Tim Frazier, so they don't come out of the draft with anybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, they didn't end up taking anybody.
Yeah, so nobody in the draft, very little in free agent acquisitions, but what they do this offseason is bring back some of their major pieces. Starting, I guess, first off with the Otto Porter Jr. signing, and then we'll get into John Wall's big money extension. Your thoughts on Otto Porter last year and how much of a leap he needs to make to keep this team trending upward?
Well, I think last year he took a very, very big leap. He was leading the league at one point in three-point percentage. I don't know if he ended up finishing there. What he was able to do for that team last year is what got them where they were at the end of the season into the second round. His growth since coming out of Georgetown has been very, very, very good for them. And I think if he can continue to play like that, I mean, we see these guys get paid. He just got 4 years, $106 million. We see these guys get paid like that, sort of start to regress after. If he can kick that trend and sort of continue to get better and play at a higher level, I think that'll be wicked important for them.
Yeah, and then, so John Wall also re-signs, just sort of extends himself, with a massive, massive deal. And he's had some things to say this summer about the rest of the East and what's been going on. He'll still make under $20 million for the next 2 seasons, but then it's leaping an extra 17, 18 million, and he's gonna make up to $43.8 million come 2021 and 2022 that season. So your thoughts on his offseason and we can get into the things he said a little later, but just the extension he signed and what that means for the position, really.
Well, it certainly means that Kyrie's going to be getting a lot come time for his extension,
Yeah.
but I think Wall deserves it. My personal feelings on him, I think he might be the best point guard in the East, ahead of Kyrie, just because of what he's able to do on both sides, as well as creating for, you see some of the passes that he makes, he's like magic with that ball. It's crazy. I think he absolutely deserves that. And in terms of what he's been saying this offseason, he's kinda right. I mean, they're the only, team in the East that's been up top, up in the top 4 or 5 for the past couple of years that hasn't really acquired a bigger name in terms of, free agents or trades. So they're keeping that core of him and Beal together without sort of trying to buy your way into the top 4. They were able to do it through draft and internally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I actually put a lot of stock in continuity, which is something I want to talk about, and how the Celtics, maybe they'll get off to a slow start. They're working in 11 new names, only 4 guys back. Cleveland's going to be working in a new point guard or a new couple point guards, and they have some injuries to deal with. Philly's guard play is going to be super young. I think Toronto has some continuity too, and Milwaukee does, but not at the level that the Wizards do. How much stock do you put into that and sort of just Beal and Wall viewing this as them against the world and just their chemistry over the chemistry of Kyrie and who knows, or Derrick Rose and J.R. Smith, or that type of stuff?
See, they automatically have that advantage over every team in the East. I think that's going to be huge for them because we've seen the both of them grow as players during their careers together. I think Beal, they got him maybe 2 or 3 years after Wall. So it's really, they've had their whole careers together almost intertwined. They've been able to come up in this league together. I think they both just got over 20 points per game last year. The sky's the limit for those guys. I really think the continuity there is going to be important. Oh, ahead of we just got Kyrie Irving. We don't know we're not 100% sure what the backcourt situation is going to be there. Knowing Brad Stevens is going to be a lot of rotating pieces. So we're never going to see a true backcourt like they have, and I think that's going to be a big advantage for them.
Yeah, especially to start the season, I think they could get off to a really hot start and, hold that first spot in the East for a little bit before, Cleveland or Boston gets going or even Milwaukee gets going. Today's episode of the Preview Podcast is sponsored by Greats, makers of the all-time greats. That's classic, stylish, and comfortable sneakers sold at a great price. Greats is Brooklyn's first sneaker company. They have a wide selection of both men's and women's shoes, versatile styles suitable for any occasion. I personally have a pair of their all-leather Royale lace-ups. I got the white-on-white version. They are super fly. They're comfortable, and I can wear them with really anything. Dress pants, shorts, jeans. It does not matter. I wear them all the time. You can check those out and other great styles at greats.com. And we've got a special deal for our audience. You can save 15% on your first order with the offer code Celtics Roundtable. Go to greats.com. That's GREATS.com. And be sure to enter Celtics Roundtable to save 15% at checkout. Greats believes so much in their shoes, they're going to offer you a no-risk return and exchange policy that I don't think you'll need, but it guarantees that you will get the right fit and style that you love. That's greats.com and use the offer code Celtics Roundtable to save 15% on the flyest shoes you will ever wear. The one question early in the season, and I guess through training camp, is going to be Markieff Morris, though. A big part of this team. And he's dealing with an abdomen. He had sports hernia surgery, out until probably November. But what are your thoughts on him? And obviously the Celtics now have somewhat of a newfound rivalry that will add to their, already existing one with this team.
Well, Markieff Morris already hates Al Horford after that first game. So that's already going to be there. But I don't know. We always see him and his brother sort of go at it in their matchups. I'm pretty sure Marcus hit a game-winning shot over Markieff last year, or vice versa. That's going to be fun to watch those two going at it. But he averaged 14 a game last year, so that's going to be a hard, production to get out of their guys. Oubre is going to need to step up a ton. Mm-hmm. Porter's going to need to actually get off to a hot start because they're really going to need it without Morris.
Say DeMarcus Cousins is moved this year. What would you put the percentage-wise, where he goes? Is Washington a heavy favorite there?
If they want to compete with the top dogs in the East, I think they have to be. I mean, they already can compete with the top, the Cavs and the Celtics, but Cousins would really, give them that advantage that they didn't have in last year's series, just because of the type of player he is. He is way different than Gortat. You're able to spread the floor more with him out there, because he can shoot. I don't know when he developed that shot, but he can shoot from range. He's DeMarcus Cousins. He's just great. I think I'd put it at in terms of if they need to do it, maybe a 70% chance, but it all depends on how New Orleans starts, because if they get off really slow, you could just see that whole team blow up.
Right, you'd have to put the Wizards up there as favorites if he is moved. So we're talking he's moving. I guess I'd put Washington as the favorite there because of the John Wall thing, and as you mentioned on CLNSradio.com, and their sort of college relationship, and Cousins just sort of still trying to find his way in the NBA, and John Wall already having found it as, possibly the second best player in the Eastern Conference.
Even if they don't end up necessarily trading for him, I'm pretty sure he is a free agent this offseason, so that could be a spot where he ends up maybe signing.
We could be talking about this again next summer.
Exactly.
And he would definitely give them, something the Celtics don't have, something the Cavs don't have, something really nobody else in the East has, in terms of just a dominant offensive big man. Alright, so last season, the Celtics and Wizards matched up, you see right here, 11 times, winds up going 6-5 in Boston's favor. That sixth win was Game 7, and as I mentioned before, Kelly Olynyk's big game. However, how much can you really take from that series, or even all their matchups last year, when considering their 4 matchups this year, which I will mention real quick, starting on Christmas Day, Monday, December 25, 5:30, the Celtics will host the Wizards on ABC. All 4 of these matchups on national television as well. Thursday, February 8th, they'll be on TNT down in DC. Then on Wednesday, March 14th on ESPN back up in Boston. And finally, Tuesday, April 11th on TNT down in the District of Columbia. So, what can you really take away from those matchups?
Not a whole lot now that the Celtics, completely flipped the roster around. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they go at a team like Washington, who really runs the ball up and down the court really fast. Mm-hmm. The Celtics have seemed to do that in the preseason, so I feel like we're going to get a lot of high intensity, high paced games between them.
Yeah, and I guess Marcus Smart's going to be an X factor here, along with Jaylen Brown, in terms of the defensive positioning. Opposite Kyrie Irving is going to be a real sticking point. Avery Bradley's loss going to be hard to swallow, more so in games against teams that have those 2 star guards. We talked about it a little bit when we talked to Trailblazers the other day, but that's definitely going to be a tough one, I think.
Yeah, because you could just if they still had Bradley, they could just stick him on John Wall and then let Beal run around with whoever else they have, but not Isaiah, but Jalen or Jay. They could throw Jay on Beal, and then because I just think they're gonna miss Bradley a lot, and especially in a matchup like this. Kyrie is a slight upgrade in terms of defending compared to Isaiah, but he's still not there yet.
For sure. Alright, final record standings prediction from Nick Cherico, 50-32, third in the Eastern Conference, bumping them up 1 win this year, but really getting them into legitimate contention for, I think, that 1 seed for most of the season. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, it's gonna be a battle to come to the end of the season. They're definitely gonna be involved.
Alright, he's Nick Cherico, at Nick Cherico2 on Twitter. That's at Nick Cherico and the number 2. You can follow him there. You can hear him all season long on the Celtics Newsfeed with us. Nick, any last second thoughts on the Wizards and Celtics this season?
I think they're definitely going to be some very, very close matchups, and it's going to be a great series. I bet we see them again in the playoffs too.
That would be certainly thrilling, especially after what went down last year. Alright, Nick, thanks so much for joining us. We will talk to you soon.
Alright.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to day 22 of the Boston Celtics Newsfeed's 2017-18 NBA preview. Again, you can get more analysis on the CLNSradio.com site and view any of our previous episodes at youtube.com/CLNS Media. Follow CLNS on Twitter at CLNS Media and myself at CLNS_Walsh. Be sure to subscribe to the Celtics Newsfeed, rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and of course, the CLNS Media Network's mobile podcast app. Until next time, this is Newsfeed Manager Mike Walsh, signing off.